The rain poured like the sky itself, was mourning her downfall. Alara stood at the bottom of the marble staircase, drenched and trembling, watching her entire life get thrown out of the mansion she once called home. Designer dresses, her wedding heels. The framed photo from her honeymoon in Santorini. One by one, they crashed onto the wet driveway like they were worthless, like she was worthless. "Get out of my house," her mother-in-law screamed from the doorway. "You barren disgrace, you trapped my son for his money." Each word sliced through Alara's chest. 3 years. 3 years she had given to this family. She had left her career for Zaid, cut ties with friends, devoted herself to being the perfect wife. And now she was being discarded like trash. Zaid stood at the top of the stairs, dry beneath the golden chandelier, hands in his pockets, face cold, no guilt. "Alara, don't make a scene," he said flatly. "The divorce papers are ready. Just sign them." Divorce. The word hit harder than the rain, her voice shook. "Why, Zaid? What did I do?" For a second, he didn't answer. Then the front door opened wider. And Alara's world shattered. Aisha stepped out, her best friend, her sister in everything but blood, the woman who held her hand on her wedding day. Now Aisha stood beside Zaid, too close. Her manicured fingers resting comfortably on his arm. "Alara, please don't overreact," Aisha said softly, fake sympathy dripping from every word. Overreact. Memories flashed, late-night calls, business trips, whispers she forced herself to ignore. "You too," Alara's breath caught. "Since when?" Zaid exhaled impatiently. "It just happened. You and I were already falling apart." Falling apart? She had been begging him to talk, to fix things, to try, but they weren't falling apart. He was replacing her. Her mother-in-law grabbed Alara's suitcase and hurled it down the stairs. It burst open. Alara's wedding dress spilled out, white turning gray in rainwater. Security guards watched silently. No one defended her. Alara picked up the soaked fabric with shaking hands. That dress once symbolized forever. Now it felt like a funeral shroud. She looked up at Zaid, at Aisha, at the mansion that had been her cage. Her tears mixed with the rain, but something inside her shifted. The pain was unbearable. The betrayal was suffocating. But beneath the heartbreak, something darker was being born. And Alara realized they hadn't just thrown her out. They had just created their worst nightmare. The rain blurred her vision, but the past was painfully clear. There was a time when Alara wasn't standing outside a mansion. There was a time when she owned one, before Zaid. She was the only daughter of a respected business family in Chicago, Ivy League education. A sharp executive role in her father's company, investors respected her. Employees followed her. She had power and a future carved in gold. Then she met Zaid, nobody. A struggling dreamer with second-hand suits, a tiny rented office, and ideas no one funded. But Alara saw hunger in his eyes. Ambition, fire, she fell for the underdog, her family warned her. "He's not on your level," her father said. "Love doesn't build empires, discipline does." But Alara chose love, she chose Zaid. She walked away from inheritance, resigned her position, refused the trust fund that would have protected her forever. Her family gave one condition: if you leave with him, you leave without our money. She didn't hesitate, because she believed in him. When investors rejected him, she rewrote his business plans. When banks refused loans, she used her savings quietly. When he doubted himself, she stayed up all night building presentations. She became his strategist, his accountant, his anchor. And slowly, his startup grew. A rented office became a corporate suite. Second-hand suits became Italian tailoring. Luxury cars replaced bus rides. Magazines called him a self-made genius. Self-made. No one mentioned the woman behind the curtain. At events, she stood beside him while he took credit. When reporters asked, he said, "I built this from nothing." Nothing. She swallowed the sting because she thought they were a team, but success changed him. Late nights became secrets. Gratitude became irritation. The man who once couldn't sleep without holding her hand stopped looking at her across dinner. And when money settled into his veins like poison, he rewrote history. In his new version, he built everything alone. And Alara, she became unnecessary, disposable. The humiliation didn't end in the rain. It followed her inside. one final performance before the curtain fell on her marriage. That night, Zayd insisted she attend the charity gala at the Grand Monarch Hotel. "Smile for the cameras," he said. "Don't create rumors." Smile. Alara walked into the ballroom wearing the last expensive gown she still owned, emerald silk, elegant but understated. Chandeliers glittered above America's elite. CEOs, influencers, politicians. The same people who once ignored Zayd now fought for his attention. Whispers began. "That's his wife? She doesn't look polished enough. I heard she can't even give him a child." Each whisper was deliberate. Then she saw Aisha, silver couture, confident, radiant. Standing exactly where a powerful man's partner should stand beside Zayd. Alara's stomach dropped. Zayd walked over, champagne in hand, smile artificial. "You shouldn't have worn that," he muttered. "It's the only thing left that hasn't been thrown out," she replied. He laughed sharp. "Look around you, Alara. This is my world now. Billion-dollar investors, political connections. Global partnerships." He leaned closer. "You don't fit here anymore." His mother joined them, pearls gleaming. "I warned you," she said sweetly, loud enough for others to hear. "Class can't be learned, it's inherited." Smirks circled like vultures. Aisha placed a possessive hand on Zayd's arm. "Alara, you were perfect for the struggling phase," she said softly. "But growth requires evolution." Struggling phase, as if Alara had been a stepping stone. Zayd raised his glass. "To new beginnings." The crowd echoed him. And Alara understood. They weren't just discarding her, they were erasing her. Her throat tightened, but she refused to cry. She straightened her spine, stared into Zayd's eyes, then Aisha's, then the glittering room that believed she was nothing. Her voice was calm, dangerous. "You're right," she said quietly. "I don't belong here." They smirked, thinking she had surrendered. "I will come back," she continued. Silence. "And when I do," her eyes burned with something colder than pain, "I won't just stand in this room." She stepped back, chin lifted. "I will own it." A pause. "I will come back and buy your existence." The night Alara walked out of that ballroom, she disappeared. No social media, no interviews, no public appearances. Zayd thought she had broken. High society assumed she crawled back to her parents. But Alara didn't go to her parents. She went to Geneva, to the man the world called a legend, her Dada. Arman Rahmani, a reclusive billionaire industrialist with an empire across oil, tech, shipping, and private equity. Old money, silent power. He didn't chase attention, attention chased him. He hadn't attended her wedding. He had warned her. When you choose love over legacy, be prepared to lose both. Now Alara stood in his private study, no makeup, no diamonds, no husband, just scars. "I was wrong," she admitted. Arman didn't soften. He asked, "Are you done being weak?" That night, her rebirth began. The trust fund she once refused was still untouched. But Arman didn't hand her power. He made her earn it. He put her through boardrooms where people tried to talk over her, then watched silently to see if she would shrink. She didn't. For 2 years, Alara trained like a soldier. 4 a.m. mornings, corporate law before sunrise, market analysis until her eyes burned, negotiation drills that broke her pride. She learned how to read a man's fear before he spoke, how to cut a deal with a smile, and how to walk away when emotions begged her to stay. She shadowed CEOs, sat in hostile meetings, and watched mergers like wars. She learned leverage, who owed whom, who lied to whom, who would betray whom for the right number. Some nights she cried in the bathroom, not for Zayd, but for the girl who begged. Then she washed her face, stared into the mirror, and whispered, "Never again." Her look changed too. Soft pastels disappeared. Tailored black suits replaced them. Structured blazers, diamond studs, a sleek bob, minimal makeup, bold red lips, not for beauty, for authority. By the end of year 1, she reclaimed voting control in 3 Rahmani subsidiaries. By year 2, she launched a venture capital arm, quietly buying into tech sectors, including one dangerously familiar. Media began whispering about a mysterious investor. The phantom heiress. No one connected her to Zayd's discarded wife. Exactly as planned. One evening, overlooking Lake Geneva, she reviewed a report, Zayd Industries, over-leveraged and fragile. She smiled faintly. Predators always think they're hunters until a bigger predator enters the forest. Alara adjusted her cufflinks. She wasn't coming back as the woman they humiliated. She was coming back as a storm. Fire 2 years later, Zaid Rahman was no longer untouchable. His empire was cracking. First, small fractures. A supplier terminated a contract. A partner withdrew funding overnight. A prototype leaked and burned investor confidence. Then banks started calling. Then lawyers started emailing. Then board members stopped answering his calls. His mother slammed her cane on marble floors, screaming at staff as if fear could be fired. Aisha stopped answering late-night calls. Even the people who used to flatter him now spoke in careful, distant tones, like he was already a scandal. The real blow came quietly. 3 board members sold their shares to an unknown buyer. Stock prices dipped, then plunged. The same outlets that once called him a visionary now called him unstable. Analysts questioned his leadership. Competitors circled. Even his mother's friends stopped inviting her to their exclusive dinners. Zaid stopped sleeping. His perfect suits carried stress. His voice carried panic. He stared at spreadsheets like they were enemies, refreshing the stock ticker as if staring harder could fix it. But deep down, he knew. This wasn't random. It was strategic. And whoever was doing it understood his business too well. His CFO rushed in one evening. "Sir, there's one potential solution." Zaid looked up. "What?" "A private equity firm is buying distressed tech assets globally. They've acquired stakes in 2 competitors." "Name?" "Vega Dominion Capital." Zaid frowned. "Never heard of them. They're private, powerful, they move through layers. If anyone can stabilize us, it's them." "And the CEO?" The CFO slid a tablet across the desk. A woman stepped out of a black Rolls-Royce, face hidden behind dark sunglasses. Tailored suit, sharp posture, commanding presence. 2 initials beneath the photo. "EV, full name?" Zaid demanded. "No public record beyond the initials. She's ruthless. Silent takeovers. Some call her the Ice Empress." Desperate times erased pride. "Set up a meeting," Zaid said. 3 days later, he stood in Manhattan's most exclusive corporate tower, at the top floor boardroom. The city looked small from up there, like everything he owned could be reduced to dots. The doors opened. Heels, steady, controlled, she entered, black suit, diamond studs, crimson lips, her sunglasses came off, time stopped. Zaid's breath caught. Because the woman at the head of the table was Alara, but not the Alara he threw into the rain. This one was power in human form, cold, calculated, untouchable. She placed a folder down and looked at him with zero emotion. "Good afternoon, Mr. Rahman," she said smoothly. "I hear you're in need of saving." The next meeting wasn't in his office. It was on her terms. The presidential sky sweet at the Aurelius, crystal chandeliers, marble floors. Manhattan spread beneath them like a map she already owned. Zaid waited, rehearsing lines that sounded confident in his head and pathetic in the silence. Outside the suite, his phone kept vibrating, missed calls from the board, angry messages from lenders, a voicemail from his mother blaming him for bringing shame. He ignored it all. Because right now, he needed one thing, a miracle with a signature. The doors opened, the room shifted. She walked in slowly, heels echoing like a countdown, tailored ivory suit, sleek hair, posture like royalty. Zaid stood up instinctively. She didn't offer her hand. She sat at the head of the table. "Mr. Rahman," she said calmly. Her voice was controlled silk smooth with steel underneath. Zaid studied her face, familiar but impossible. "Ms. Vega," he said politely. "Thank you for meeting me." A faint smile. "I don't usually invest in unstable companies." The word unstable hit like a slap. Zaid cleared his throat. "We've had temporary setbacks. With the right capital injection and restructuring," she raised one finger. Silence. "I know your numbers better than you do," she said coolly. "Your debt ratio is dangerous, your board doesn't trust you, and your European expansion was reckless." He blinked. "How did she? You built fast," she continued. "But you forgot the foundation." Foundation. That word cut deep. "You speak as if you were there," he said, leaning forward. She tilted her head and removed her gloves, then she looked at him fully. No sunglasses, no shadows, just her eyes, familiar, too familiar. His heartbeat stopped. "Alara," the name slipped out like a curse. She didn't smile, she didn't blink. Correction, she said evenly. Elara vengeance. The air vanished from his lungs. Impossible. This woman couldn't be the same wife he humiliated, but the eyes didn't lie. He staggered back. How? 2 years, she replied. Discipline does wonders. Shock melted into regret. Elara, I didn't know, she laughed softly, without warmth. You didn't want to know. And in that moment, Zaid realized something terrifying. He hadn't lost a wife. He had created his competition. Fire Zaid thought he was negotiating. He was being dismantled. Within weeks, Vega Dominion Capital completed a rescue acquisition. Media praised EV for saving jobs. Headlines called her brilliant. Investors calmed down because fear disappears when a stronger predator arrives. What they didn't know, the rescue came with chains. Zaid lost majority control. He remained CEO in title only. Every major decision required board approval, and the board, answerable to Elara. One morning, he arrived at headquarters to find new security. Sir, your access has been downgraded. Downgraded. He forced a laugh. Mistake. There is. A sleek black car pulled up. Elara stepped out. Employees who once bowed to Zaid now turned toward her with effortless respect. Some even whispered, she's here, like the building belonged to her breath. Power had shifted. Reporters waited in the lobby, cameras hungry. Zaid tried to walk through them like before, but microphones chased him. Mr. Rahman, is it true you're being removed? Did the board lose faith? He looked for someone to shield him, security, assistants, anyone. No one moved. They were watching Elara now. She walked past him. Good morning, Mr. Rahman, you're 10 minutes late. His ego tried to scream, but reality kept choking it. Then came the mansion. He returned home to moving trucks. What's going on? He demanded. A real estate agent handed him papers. The property has been sold. Sold to who? A familiar voice answered behind him. To me. Elara stood at the gates, the same gates where he once watched her belongings get thrown into the rain. This house was under heavy mortgage, she said casually. You overextended. I bought the debt. You can't do this, he spat. She stepped closer. I already did. And then she revealed Aisha. Aisha wasn't glowing anymore, only panicking. Elara handed Zaid a folder. Bank transfers, shell accounts, messages. Enough proof to destroy reputations, marriages, and freedom. Aisha had been siphoning company funds, planning her escape when everything collapsed. Zaid's hands shook. No, she would, Aisha snapped, mask breaking. I did what you taught me, money first. Love later, betrayal met betrayal. Elara watched them like a judge. Everyone leaves when the money does, Elara said coldly. You taught her that. That night, the mansion lights went dark. Lawyers arrived, security changed. His name disappeared from the gate. Zaid stood outside in the pouring rain, no security, no car, no power, just a suitcase at his feet, exactly where she once stood. Across the street, under a black umbrella, Elara watched silently. No tears, no anger, just balance restored. Thunder cracked. Elara whispered, "Welcome to nothing." The rain hadn't stopped. It was almost poetic. 2 years ago, Elara stood in the same storm, broken, abandoned, erased. Now the storm felt different, controlled. Elara walked to her car, a matte black Ferrari, engine humming like restrained power. City lights reflected off its surface like molten gold. Behind her, Zaid stumbled forward. Elara, please, his voice cracked. Not a billionaire, not a CEO, just a man with nothing. You've made your point, he begged. You won, stop, don't take everything. She paused and turned. For a moment, she studied him. The arrogance was gone, the pride shattered. His expensive confidence had melted into cheap desperation. I didn't take everything, she said calmly. You lost it. We were married, he pleaded. We had history. She almost smiled. Yes, and history teaches lessons. He dropped to his knees in the rain. I was wrong, he whispered. I should have valued you, should have. The words were hollow. Elara removed her gloves, letting rain hit her hands. Once it felt cruel. Now it felt cleansing, like the universe washing the last of him off her life. You didn't lose your empire because of me, she said steadily. You lost it because you believed you built it alone. Thunder rolled. You called me unfit, she continued. You said I didn't belong in your world, but your world was never yours. It was rented, built on my sacrifice, held up by lies. She stepped closer, voice low, precise. The truth is, you were never fit to stand beside me. Silence, except the rain. Karma doesn't scream, she said. It waits. Then her monologue, soft but lethal. Self-worth isn't something a husband gives you. It's something you claim. You can be kind without being breakable. You can love without becoming a servant. And when people mistake your loyalty for weakness, the universe eventually introduces them to consequences. She leaned in just enough for him to hear the last line like a verdict. Never beg the woman you broke, because the version of her you created won't recognize your tears. Elara turned, slid into the driver's seat, and the Ferrari roared to life, certain. As she drove away, she glanced in the rearview mirror. Zaid was still there, on his knees, in the rain, begging the woman he threw away, but the mirror showed something else too, not revenge, freedom. Elara pressed the accelerator. The skyline blurred into streaks of light. She wasn't driving away from pain, she was driving toward legacy. And this time, no one would ever make her question her worth again.